Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Enlightenment podcast. Thank you for coming back again and joining us. We have a very special guest with us today, joining us from Connecticut. We are very happy to have him here. He's a great guy. I've actually followed him on Facebook myself and keep up with him. He's active amongst the community, one of the leaders. A lot of people look up to him. Brother J.L. Ford, welcome into the webcast, man. How are you? So, man, first of all, I'm happy to have you on. Again, thank you for joining us. As you can see, this brother is active. He has a book out. We're going to talk about that. He's active amongst the community as far as religion. And trust me, we're going to get all into it tonight. It's going to be a lot of fun. So without me continuing to talk, man, tell us a little bit more about yourself. Tell the people more about JL.
Hey, first, family, I appreciate y'all having me on, man. To be able to jump on your platform and talk to the people is definitely an honor, and I appreciate it. What you say, you want to know more about the book first?
Well, no, I want you to tell us a little bit about your background. Tell us more about JL. Yeah,
no problem. So one thing that, a lot of people don't know about me is that I was given up at birth. So I was adopted, and I was brought right into a deep, down south Christian home. Church 5 times a week, 3 times on Sunday. We were raised Church of God by Faith, which is Methodist. Then once I got a little bit older, I started questioning some things. I went to Church of God, then I went into Seventh-day Adventism. I looked into Islam. I looked into Buddhism. I looked into all these different religions. I was in the military, so I spent some time amongst the Islam community. And so it really got me to questioning a lot of things. So eventually, about 7 years ago, I started the process of waking up. So my whole goal right now is to show people how religion hurts us, how it holds us back, and how liberation, mental liberation, can really give the power back to us as a people.
Wow, man. That's incredible. Like you, man, myself, I actually, I went through a whole awakening experience, and I think the most difficult thing for me was being able to accept logic, which is very hard to deal with the facts versus faith. Do we have the real meaning of faith? Is that term properly used? Like yourself, I grew up in a very traditional background. Church of God in Christ was my background, and grateful for the foundation that was laid. But we all have to go to a higher level of thought. So yeah, man. So you started off in church, you branched over into to finding basically God for yourself. I guess if you want to call it that. So then now you go to college. From my understanding, you have a master's in psychology.
Yeah. So, and that's really what kind of got me out of religion, using the psychological aspect of it. So it wasn't so much about the religion, so much as it was about just how our minds work around it. Because I'll give you an example. We all know that animals don't talk, right? If somebody said that they had a conversation with an animal, we would all instantly consider that person crazy. We would dismiss that individual. But the moment that it comes into a religious aspect, it's possible. So what's going on in that person's mind where they can rationalize an animal talking when it comes to the religion, but when it comes to anything outside of religion, all of a sudden they can see that would be absolutely absurd. So my whole thing was figuring out how the mind works when it comes to religion and beliefs in general, and sharing that. So I don't try to really break down people's religions for them. I just show them how their own mind is working against them. it's polarity. In one way, it's working for their benefit, but in another way, it's actually working against them because it's keeping them locked into beliefs that are actually hurting them in ways that they can't even see.
Wow. Wow. So when you say ways that they can't even see, are you referring to, the subconscious thoughts, how it affects the conscious mind, or just more of an external presentation in which how they present their own faith?
You know what? In a lot of ways, man. I'll give you an example. You said you were in Church of Christ, right?
Church of God in Christ. Yeah.
Church of God in Christ. So I don't know if it's Church of God in Christ or Church of Christ, one of those. I remember going to one of the church services with a friend of mine, a woman friend of mine, and she wasn't allowed to speak in the church. If she wanted to ask a question, she had to ask the question through the man, right? That she was not allowed to do anything but sit down and be quiet. And she couldn't see the oppression in that situation. Now, if she would have gone to work, right, at her job, and that same, situation was there, if that same kind of law was, was instituted in her job, she'd be like, this is against everything I stand for, and she'd be ready to leave there in a heartbeat. So why can't we see that when it comes into our own religions? Now, it works externally and internally. I laid out a lot of different ways in my book, It's Okay to Let Go, how religion works against you, how belief can work against you in general. How you feel about yourself. If your Bible tells you, or if your book, the God that we're referring to is a God that you can look in the mirror and say that I'm all the God that I need, then you are empowering yourself. So that's the difference between having an external belief system made up by someone else's beliefs and believing in yourself. So when I talk about religion, when I talk about belief, it's all about empowering that individual instead of giving the power to something outside of themselves.
Right.
Good stuff, man. Good stuff.
Well, I'm gonna ask, brother Ken, do you have any questions before I continue on? Or go ahead,
man. Go on. I'm gonna join in a little later.
Okay, cool. So let's talk a little bit about this book, right? It's okay to let go.
Yeah.
And you have like a famous slogan. We'll get to that later. We don't want to do that.
we get to that.
We'll get to that later. I think one of the first things I saw was your slogan. I was like, This guy is bananas, man. Like, it was crazy, man. I was like, yo, this guy here. But yeah, so let's talk about this book. Obviously, I could ask you, and for the people's sake, what inspired you, but we already know that, right? It was your journey. Unless you want to elaborate on that, I mean, we're more than welcome. I'm sure.
You know what? I'll tell you this. The title, It's Okay to Let Go. This book is really for people who are in the contemplative phase. The people who are thinking, they're asking questions. Because one of the things that I realized early on is the people who are hard-headed in this, they're not listening, right? And then there are people who already know everything. They don't really need anything. It's those people right there in that gray area. Because what tends to happen is when people start to question their beliefs in their religion, their bias remains with what they've been taught. So even though they go out looking for the truth always bends right back to whatever they believed in the first place. So now they've validated their own beliefs from searching for the truth. So what I try to help people do is to understand exactly what their mind is going through in the process. I want them to understand what narrative bias is. I want them to understand what cognitive dissonance is. I want them to understand these things so that they can be aware of it when their mind tries to use it against them. Because belief is like, I always have my little brain ball here. Belief is like this. Your parents pass this on to you, right? And a lot of who you are emanates from what you believe. So it's very important that your mind protects what you believe. So your mind uses these devices to hold these things in place. Like I said, cognitive dissonance, narrative bias, it uses those devices to hold these things in place. So what I try to do in the book is show people how their brain is working to keep them into something that is actually working against them. So it's okay to let go. It's kind of like, listen, it's okay. You're not going to burn in hell. There's no hell. You're not going to roast. It's okay to question this book. Is it really the infallible word of God? Because we've always been taught that we can't question these things. We can't question God. We can't question the Bible. And so I'm trying to give them like a pillow landing. I'm letting them know, hey, it's okay. You can ask these questions. You can, even in the Bible, it says, prove me. So that's what we're trying to do right now. We're going to prove it to see if this is really real. So that's all the title came from. It's okay to let go. And the whole book, I'm just really trying to give that person a soft landing on the truth.
Oh man. I'm gonna put your book back here so everyone can see closer. It's okay to let go. As you can see, he got the chain, and he's pulling very dramatic, got dramatic effect going on. You also have a website, real quick. What's your website?
Same thing. It's okay to let go.com. A lot of people probably don't know this, but I used to write books before. I've written 4 other books, and they're all about relationships, and a lot of them come from a Christian perspective. So going from that to this was a major transition for me. But those books are still out there, and I have worked as a mental health counselor, and I help people through relationships. But this was a big jump for me because this is about the community. It's not about me. It's really about what little I can provide to help others in our community. But yeah, the website is itsokaytoletgo.com. People can order the book right now. I also have t-shirts on there and downloads. The downloads are to help people who are in the transition stage. Because I know you brothers have gotten those questions in your inbox. Like, what do I do now? Because when that belief system is taken away, there's this huge hole that's left. And people are like, okay, now what? What do I believe? Where do I go? Who do I serve? And so we need people who have that mission like myself to help them along the way so that they can find truth on their own.
Exactly.
I think you said something that was really important. The hole that goes missing.
Yeah.
It's a void that a lot of people they miss.
Right.
I did, dance ministry. I mimed and, did all around and, like I did it all.
I used to love it.
Yeah, man. I'm telling you, man, I traveled around doing it. I've done conferences. I've done workshops. I mean, Jink Mom, if you type that in, you'll pull me up. You'll see me going hard. And I did it, man. I did it with passion because my heart was in it,
Right.
And so that's the biggest thing that we gotta realize is the heart, right? In the heart, because a lot of people have this cleave to this particular ideology about their own spirituality or their own religion.
Right.
And what I found interesting though is when I did my Hell Is Not Real video, I found that, stripping away hell is stripping away their God.
Yes, sir. Yep.
Because you would have thought that I said God wasn't real. But the only thing that I said was that your ideology about hell is not right. The doctrine doesn't support it. Nothing supports that particular ideology besides Greco-Roman era and fear tactics in the Hellenistic paradigm.
Absolutely.
So, with that being said, let's get into this religion real quick. And then I'll let Ken go into his.
Can I say something piggybacking off that when you talk about hell? That was the first blow for me too. The hell aspect, because my brother passed. And my brother, he was 18 years old, but he was wild, and he drowned. And I remember sitting at the funeral thinking to myself, so you mean to tell me that this 18-year-old kid is burning in hell right now because he was going through this adolescent stage and he wasn't acting right? It wasn't adding up. So all of these people are burning in hell right now for eternity, and this God, this loving and forgiving God, is conscious of it and doing absolutely nothing about it, it just don't add up. But you're right. They cling to hell just as much as anything else. And once you start telling them that hell isn't real, you would think that they would say, really? Wow, that's beautiful news.
Tell me more about it. They don't want to hear that, man.
No.
It's the whole reason for the psychological thing. You know, they believe more, and they're more fearful of hell,
right,
than they are of the true and genuine love for this God that they serve.
Right.
And so they don't realize that though, because the first thing they do to try to convert someone is tell them about hell. Instead of telling them about, hey, let me tell you how loving and great this God is that I serve, who's really no hell, you know.
Right.
Don't listen to, you know, it's like people would be like, oh man, we have what, 2.4 billion Christians in the world, one of the largest religions, but yet, and still, it's just, I don't know. But what got me was tithing. That got me.
Okay.
Tithing got me. It got me back in 2011, and I started questioning, you know, things about tithing and money. And I'm like, man, wait a minute. If he said this and he said that, then I went from tithing, and then, you know, I ventured off into other studies like yourself, and, you know, I got into, you know, some of the hyper dispensationalism as well. And I got to get into that, and, you know, so on and so forth. But the whole idea of the dogma behind it all is just trying to fill a void, which is really themselves, but they don't know how to identify that. So let's walk through this religion from that point.
Okay.
When did you discover your idea of truth, or have you, or are you still on the journey?
That's a good question. And it's a question that every believer always asks me. And I'm very careful with how I answer it, because I want them to understand that I'm not telling them that my truth is the truth. You understand what I'm saying? So, for example, a lot of times what I say is the black woman is God. Now, I know how they're going to take that. They're going to take that to mean that, you know, they're going to take their concept of God and apply it to my concept of God, right? But those two are not the same. So it's just the same. I'm very careful when it comes to expressing beliefs. But one truth that I would say that I have is that my truth is always moving. I could believe one thing today, and I could believe one thing tomorrow. Why? Because I am in complete control over what I believe. I'm a free individual with a free mind. And to have that type of freedom enables me to learn at a capacity that I wasn't able to when I was a believer. Because when you're a believer, your mind creates blind spots. In order for you to believe that the earth is 6,000 years old, you have to discount a whole lot of science. All right? you get a blind spot to a whole lot of science, and you have to hold on to that, because if you accept any of that science, now it's getting in the way of your belief system. And if the earth isn't 6,000 years old, then Genesis might not be true. And if Genesis isn't true, then Jesus may have never, it just goes on and on. So you got to hold on to the belief, and by doing that, you're holding on to a lot of blind spots. So for me, my truth is that my truth is always changing. And that the truth does always change with the knowledge that we gain. 1,000 years from now, we're going to look back. People are going to look back and say that we were ignorant. And who the hell knows what they're going to know? So the truth is always changing. And I'm free to change with it.
I find that, and I'm going to pass it over to Ken Shu. I found it as interesting that this saying I have. I said, when you realize that truth has gray, then you found just an inch of the truth. There's a lot more gray in truth than there is in what you see in front of you. Even certain, when it comes down to certain science, because it's always evolving, it's always growing, You're always finding something new. So, you know, we have to consider that.
The truth is stranger than fiction, and that's so real.
Yeah.
So real.
That's very true. So I'm going to pass it over to the host, actually. I'm the co-host, but I'm going to pass it over to Ken, and we're going to get into some more information. So let's do it.
Yeah, I appreciate you once again coming on, man. I want to get into your book, man. I want you to kind of go into how you started the book? What made you want to write a book, or gave you that push, that drive to want to tell this story? So I want you to kind of go into that.
I've always written books. I've been writing books since I was in the military. It's just my way of expressing myself, and it's my way of kind of being efficient with my time, because I want everybody to have what I have to share, but I don't have time to talk to everybody, you know? So that's my way of kind of being like, listen, if you want what I have, I'm not saying I have a whole lot, but what I have, I will give it to you. No, it's going to cost you $17.99, but, you know, you can get it. But the way I started the book out was actually interesting, because it's the same thing that inspired me to really write it. Was when Dylan Ruth killed those people in South Carolina. Now, when he killed those people, it was 9 people in a church praying to their God, and this guy walks in and kills every one of them. Now, I had to ask myself this question: where was the God who they were praying to? And I asked this question, and people were telling me, well, God isn't a magician. Well, hold on now. Jesus walked on water. Jesus raised somebody from the dead. Jesus fed thousands of people with a little bit of food.
Turned water to wine.
Turned water to wine.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden, when we ask him to whisper into their ear while they're praying, just a whisper. You ain't got to stop a bullet. You ain't got to do anything. Just whisper, hey, there's a shooter coming. All of a sudden, Jesus isn't a magician. So I asked that question. I put that video out. I said, where was the God that they were praying to? In his building. Where was he? He has all the means to do something about it. These people were praying at night, during service. What is the plan here? So I started the book out with that question. And my book is a lot of questions, because what I've learned is that believers don't respond to facts and information, you respond to doubt. So if you can instill some doubt, that tree will grow on its own, and it will blossom into them coming into truth. So the book actually begins with questioning God. That's the first chapter, questioning God. Where was this God when we absolutely needed him the most? Where was he when we needed him in South Carolina? And where was he when our ancestors were being hung from trees during slavery and after slavery, during the time of lynching? Where was he during this time? Even if he does exist, even if Jesus does exist, he wasn't there when we needed him the most. So why are we to give our service and our lives to someone who wasn't there for us when we needed him the absolute most? He'll pay your mortgage, right? You know, he'll make sure a $100 bill comes, or you get a raise at your job. But if somebody being shot up in the church, all of a sudden, God doesn't do magic. So that's what really inspired the book. That's what got it started out.
Good deal, man. So how do you feel about why humanity is here? Why was we set here, and why was we given this physical body in order to have to endure all these things? So how do you feel about that?
Personally, and this is my personal belief, I feel that the body is just a mechanism to bring what is unseen to the seen. In other words, we're all creators, right? We all have ideas, and no doctor, no scientist can see an idea. It's a part of the unseen from which everything is birthed from. And what we can do as human beings is birth that potential out. So if we have an idea, if we have an invention, something, a poem, a book, whatever it is, it starts in here, in the unseen, and we use this body as a vehicle to bring it out into fruition. And that's what my personal belief is. And that's why I have so much respect and reverence for the woman, because they actually bring life into this realm, you know? So me personally, I feel that our job is to produce from that which is nothing and bring it into something.
Right. So with us having to produce all these things and create, to me, it has to be some type of growth,
right,
in play. So you have to go through different experiences and learn different things in order to know how to create. So, to me, when I look at religion, and I came from Christianity, my grandfather, a pastor, founder of a church of God in Christ, grandmother, on his side, my mother missionary, father deacon, my brother played the drums, So, coming from that, the way I see religion is it was a foundation. Like it was something that I had to learn. You know how you teach your kids a foundation,
right,
of a way to take. And when that kid get a certain age, that kid takes that foundation with them, but they might branch off and experience different things.
Absolutely.
Right. So, but they always remember that foundation that they learned. And when they branch off, they may disagree with some of the things that their parents taught them. But whenever they have kids on their own, they understand why their parents was teaching them things. So I see religion as a foundation that a lot of people learn from and grow from.
Yeah.
And then from that foundation, they go to another stage. See, to me, there's a lot of young souls on that foundation. And each soul must grow and mature and go up the stages.
Right.
And as they go up the stages, they're going to see things totally different. They might look back and say, hey, this is not right. But whenever you have kids, you teach your kids stories. You give your kids stories in order for them to understand and comprehend things. You give them Santa Claus, but that means something that's taking place inside the body. What we know as the colostrum, sending oil down the spine. They say Santa Claus sending gifts, coming down the chimney, sending gifts. That's talking about something inside the body. But then they tell you a story, Santa Claus. But that's how you explain things to kids. And that's how they are explaining things to young souls. They're giving them a story of something that's taking place within them. But it's only a story. And later on, they'll figure that out. But that's where they are right now,
Absolutely.
So, whenever you left religion, how did you feel? Was you kind of in doubt, or did you feel that, you was free?
And that goes back to why I wrote this book. I felt a lot of things. My heart was broken. And I'm just being real with y'all. Man, I shed tears, man, because I was serious about Jesus and my heart was in it. And I wasn't searching for the truth to get out of religion or Christianity. I was searching for truth because I wanted to be a promoter of the truth. I'm looking at all these different divisions amongst religion. And I'm like, I don't want to be a part of the one who's selling the wrong thing. So I was searching and searching and searching. And I found out that the whole thing, like you said, not that it was a lie, but that it wasn't what I thought it was.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? And I felt a lot of things, man. I felt hurt. I felt betrayed. I felt lied to. I felt empty. I felt scared because I lost people. I thought I was gonna lose, my wife. So I felt like I did lose people. I lost family members. Again, I felt lost because I was like, okay, now where do I go from here? What am I gonna fill this space back with? Who do I pray to? I'm looking at my food and I'm like, okay, do I say prayers or not?
Yeah.
So it's like, it's just like when a drug addict goes into abstinence. They all of a sudden realize that they have to cut off a whole lot of their life that they didn't realize the drug was tangled up in. Religion is tangled up in so much of what we do, and we don't even know it. The friends that we talk to on the phone, those conversations dried up quick. Oh, you don't believe in Jesus no more? You know, where do we go on Sundays? And like I said, do we pray for our food? And it's just so many things that it's wrapped up in. Am I with the right person? You know what I'm saying? So it's so many things that it wraps up into. And so, yeah, man, I would say the biggest thing that I felt was fear. And one more thing that I think a lot of people go through, and this is why I don't think that everybody needs to be disconnected from Christianity or religion in general. Some people need to stay asleep. Okay? If Jesus is keeping you from robbing my wife at the ATM machine, I need you to keep Jesus. All right? I need you to keep But the older that we get, the more real life consequential decisions we make from our belief system. And when we find out that what we've been sold is not really real, we have to question all of those decisions that we made. And sometimes that can be depressing. It can be catastrophic, because some people can feel like I wasted my whole life. Now what? Now that I know I only get one life and I got a few years left, I have to come face to face with the reality that I wasted. But that's some people's thoughts about it.
Right.
I wouldn't say that they wasted it, but that's some of the things that we come face to face with when we leave religion behind.
Right. It's like a kid, whenever they go from first grade to second grade, they don't know what to expect. They going in class, right. they got new people around them. They're not really around the same people anymore. Right. Sometimes you stay in the same school you are, but it's different things that you have to experience, and you don't know what you're expecting. So it's the same thing whenever you leave that religion and go into another stage. You don't know what to expect. You're looking around trying to figure out what to do, but you keep on moving forward. You keep on learning lessons and keep on seeking and searching. And then eventually you'll hold on to something, but you still take what you learned from there, and you bring it with you to the next stage. But a lot of people, what I'm realizing, and I'm sure you guys notice too, is that when they let go of religion, let's say Christianity, and they're looking for something to fill in that hole, it's very easy for them to grab onto something just as ridiculous. And just as out there, because they're trying to hurry up and fill that space in. And so a part of what I try to do as well is and that's why I said I try to teach people about their mind, not so much about religion, because it's easy to slip into another religion when you don't like this one. It's easy to go from this version of Christianity to this one because they told you that the people in the Bible were black. It's easy to slip up like that. But it's still your mind. It's still your mind that you're fighting against. Right, definitely, man. So if you looking at everybody and what they're doing, somebody, whenever you get out of religion, they're gonna show you. Like, to me, I learned ancient Kemet. Like when I first got out, that's the first thing I gravitated to. Yeah, and I learned from there, but I didn't stop. I kept on going. I kept on going and learning more and more. See, I mean, you have to continue to stay open. If you don't stay open, then you're going to fall, or you're either going to stay right there, or you're going to fall right back into where you came from. Yep. It's like you going back to the same grade,
Yep. That's a fact.
Yeah, so you have to continue to move forward on your journey, and as you continue to move forward on your journey and stay open, don't close yourself to anything, like they say, question everything. Yeah. And when you question everything and you stay open to it, you're going to receive what you need from each stage.
Yep.
But the journey is a beautiful thing,
It's hard too. It can be hard.
It's
hard, but it's beautiful.
Definitely, man. It could be hard, especially whenever you leave in religion. Man, I mean, it's like you still got that fear. Like, man, am I making the right decision? Is Jesus really real? Am I going to go to hell? What do I do? Where do I go? I'm learning all this new information, but where is it taking me?
Yeah.
Where are we going with this knowledge? Is it taking us to another journey? Is it bettering you? Whatever you're learning, is it bettering you within?
Mm-hmm.
You know, all these questions come to you, but you got to continue to move forward in order to get your answers.
Yeah.
You know, you may not know for a while, but you have to continue to go.
The crazy thing about it, like you just said, every answer that we get leads to more questions.
Yep.
Every time you like, and that's a big answer when it comes to religion, Christian. That's a big answer, and so it leads to a lot of questions. The whole world looks different. The whole world. I try to still go to church, you know, and everything the pastor said, I was like, what?
Yeah, you correcting everything he's saying.
Well, I mean,
everything, man.
Honestly, guys, when you really think about it, anybody who's beginning to evolve, you know, whether they're on a level of religion, you know, when they go within religion, they have certain doctrine, right? So anybody that's evolving within their mind, even if they're still in church, if they're evolving when they're reading the Bible, they're still trying to correct the pastor as he's preaching. They may say, "Oh, that's out of context." He used that way out of context. That wasn't even right. Because I found myself doing that, right? So what that I actually got to the point to where, you know, I actually opted out of church immediately, like yourself. I kept going, but because I was only trying to find the context myself. You know, I didn't want to feel good anymore. I didn't want to have to deal with emotionalism. I wanted to deal with truth and let my emotions be just what they were, emotional. Right. You know, whether it be, you know, losing a family member or, you know, going through a hard time, because for myself, you know, it's easy to think about the things that you're going through and bring it to the altar. That's easy. That's a place where you can just kind of like let all of that go. Right. But what I found to be kind of crazy is that a lot of people that I talk to seem to confuse the difference between a spiritual experience or spiritual awakening with a religious experience, which is where Ken and I kind of disconnect a little bit. Whereas I do not feel necessarily that religion, period, is the answer, because we have to really define what religion is. You know, what is the true meaning of religion? He believes it has its place. I believe it had its place. As we evolve, we're not going to need that particular dogma in order to understand how to be rightish or righteous, or how to be whole or balanced, or how to be pure in thought. I think that as the parents of the home, it is their job to give their kids the foundation, to give their kids, you know, what is right, what is wrong. Now, am I saying that within certain, watch what I say now, within the Bible itself, not trying to preach, but within the Bible itself, right? You can open the Bible, and some people can turn the Bible into a scientific book, actually, with the information, the hidden esoteric information in there. It can be a foundation, but without religion.
Right.
You use the Bible as a foundation does not mean that you're a religious person. So I know some people that actually read the Bible and say, hey, this is on the walls of ancient Kemet, which is actually means this, or this, and break it down, you know, to the minute detail of for someone who's more enlightened or more awakened to this information.
But at the exoteric level of ancient Kemet, it is religion. It's religion, just like the religion they teaching. You know, just like you teach your kids, don't do this, don't do that, do this, do that. It's the same thing that religion is teaching. Don't do these things over here. Don't do these, but you can do this and you can do that. Until they get to a certain stage to where they're on their own, or their soul is mature enough to not have to go by that anymore. But it's just like a kid. Whenever a kid leaves the house, the kid is mature enough to go on his own and experience and explore on his own. It's the same thing with the soul. The soul has to be mature enough to a stage to where it can control the human body on its own.
And see, that's what I'm trying to get you to understand, right? That's not religion teaching you that. That is the doctrine. You open the Bible and it tells you certain things. But religion is a bind, right? Religion is I have to go, or formality is I have to go to church every Sunday. I have to do this. I have to do that. I have to do this. You can't do this.
Just like you tell your kids. Your kids, you got to do this. You got to sit down and do your homework. You can't watch TV right now. It's the same thing. But
so homework.
Everything is put in place. Everything is put in place for a purpose. You know, we came from a more right-brained world. Whenever ancient Kemet was in control, we was more spiritual beings back then. Then as the world changed and it went more to a logical world. So now you see all the different things. Everybody using their mind more these days. So they had to put the religions in place in order to control the younger souls. Everything is in divine order. Everything.
I see what both of y'all are saying. I can see both. I can see duality in this. I would say that both of y'all are correct. From my opinion. I'm not saying that, I'm just saying from my opinion, I can see how both of y'all are absolutely right. I've always thought of religion as spirituality plus dogma and doctrine. And in some cases, the spirituality gets taken out of it. So you just have the dogma and the doctrine. That's how I've always thought of it. Because in ancient Africa, and around the world today, spirituality is, like when I went to Iraq, I learned that people will take their religion serious, man. Yeah. Christianity is an easy religion. It is the easiest religion I've ever seen. All you got to do is say, you know what? I'm sorry, God. Please forgive me. And you're good. There's places around the world where you got to get something cut off. Right. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Or you got to beat yourself, or you got to inflict some pain on yourself. Christianity is the easy religion. But in some places, religion was used to keep people safe and together, right? Because they were very untrusting of other groups and tribes. Like, there was a purpose for it. So I get what you're saying in terms of there being a purpose of it. And I also would say, like right now, if I have children right now, they're not, as far as I'm concerned, they're not going to be in the church. As far as I'm concerned. Because I have those lessons now, and I can teach them. I can teach them what to be without the aid of a Bible or someone else's religion. But I see the duality in it. I see the truth in both of what you're saying.
But duality.
That's why I say I wouldn't.
Duality is needed.
Exactly.
Duality is needed in order for us to complete an entire circuitry of the human experience. We have to have duality. Otherwise, we would just be, right? We would just be.
Yeah. You need the good with the bad. You need the good with the bad.
I can agree with that.
Check this out, JL. Whenever you plug that plug in a wall, it's a positive and negative energy. They're working together in order to power what you need powered. Mm-hmm. The same thing with the God and the devil thing.
Right.
You need the experience that good and what they call bad in order for your soul to have some type of growth and maturity.
And I agree with that. I would not say that we need to get rid of religion in general. There are some good religions, there are some bad religions, and there are good people who do bad things in the name of a religion, and it goes on. But here's what I would say. I don't think that this religion is good for Black people at all.
Not anymore. Not anymore, but it was.
Right.
It was.
I don't. Now you're gonna have to break this down for me, because the only way that I've seen that Christianity was in any way good for Black people is, and there was some duality in this, is how they used the story of Jesus as inspiration for their own story. The Black man being persecuted by the innocent Black man being persecuted by white supremacy. So I could see how they could look at that story and find hope in it. Other than that, I'm gonna need you to break it down, brother.
Okay.
How has Christianity ever been good?
All right. Now, I do not need a religion to have a conscious, spiritual, wholeness, balance experience, right?
Right.
Okay. So if a person is going to be religious, define religion. If they're going to be religious, then let them be religion within their own rights. This is the way I, find my own balance. This is the way I heal myself, my family, whatever, yada, yada, whoop, whoop. But for me, the most important thing is your soul, which is your spiritual growth or your soul growth or your conscious thoughts. Because really, at the end of the day, it is soul growth. This is a playground for soul growth. And we're within duality, so we're learning how to deal with both aspects of this energy, right? Any energy that's intelligent has to have a duality about itself, right? You have to be able to understand, just like the XX chromosome, the XY chromosome, all these different kind of energies that we're dealing with, right? So the only thing is, I do not feel that we as a people, and I'm gonna speak for a species. I'm just not gonna say, blacks or whites or whatever. As a species, everybody needs to understand spirituality more than religion. Because if you can respect nature, you can definitely respect yourself. You can definitely respect how you approach everything in life. And that's nature, however you want to spin it. We need to understand that spiritual concept. That's what's been lost. We've forgotten the spiritual concepts of it all, like Brother JL said. But
I agree with that. I like that.
We can move on to the next topic, because me and Kenny go all day on this.
But before we go, we gotta be honest here. Didn't the different religions teach us spirituality in a way? Didn't it teach us to open ourselves up within, praise and worship? Didn't it teach us to open ourselves, to let go of certain things, tithes, letting go of your money? All it's doing is teaching you to open yourself within, to go on to other stages, because there's going to be more stages to where you have to open yourself up to. The things may sound crazy to you, but you have to open yourself up to them.
But I would ask you this question. Do you need the middleman?
Oh, you're talking about the Jesus thing?
No. The religion is the religion
middleman.
Well, I don't
spirituality.
I don't see it as a middleman.
Foundation.
You
see it as all the same.
Well, I see religion as a foundation. Just like you teach your kids. You teach your kids they can't do certain things because they can't comprehend what the parent can comprehend. Mm-hmm. So the parent tells them, don't do this, don't do that, because the kid, they really don't understand what to do and what not to do until they get to a certain age, until somebody tells them what to do and what not to do. If nobody tells the kid what to do and what not to do, the kid gonna be running all over the house, tearing everything up. That's just like a young soul. A young soul, if they don't know what to do, if they don't have no rules and regulations, they will be all over the place. It's going to be chaos, just like it is, because you have more young souls in this world than mature souls. That's why the pyramid is the way that it is. It's big at the bottom, and as it goes up, it gets smaller. Because there's more souls at the ground level. And that's why you see all the chaos in the world, because there's more young souls. So you need that foundation to be laid. And then when they get mature enough to understand what was being said, then they'll say, oh, that's why we was taught that. The kid would say, oh, that's why mama told us that. That's why daddy told us that when we was growing up. We didn't understand it when we were teenagers, but when we got adults, we understand now. It's the same thing. So there's different levels of truth, y'all. There's different levels of truth. There's not.
There is. I agree with you. I agree with you. There is different levels of truth. That is a fact. But there's also different levels of spirituality, right? Some people find, their spiritual awakening without eating meat. Some people find it while eating meat and then transition. So it's all about levels, right? But I don't feel that religion ties anywhere into spirituality. Like I said, if you walk outside, right, this is natural. You walk outside, and immediately when you walk outside, the first thing what I do is I look up. There's the sky. Then I look down as the grass. That's order. That's order. It's natural order, the natural order of life. So like if you have a kid and you're raising this child, right, and you're trying to teach this child right from wrong, you as the God of your home or the king of your home or the king, or you're supposed to lay that foundation. You don't need religion anymore. Religion was a concept that was meant for good. I will say that. It had its place. I will say that. Religion had its place. It was a concept meant for good, right? But as our human consciousness began to shift or become more awakened or begin to broaden our perspectives about life, so then we will no longer lead this religious concept. But spirituality will still always be in the mix, because spirituality is what is natural order. What is the natural order of life? Period.
It kind of sounds like you're saying the same thing that he's saying, though, because it's like you're saying that the expansion of human consciousness in our infant phase, it sounds like you're saying that we did need religion, in our inception, in our inception of.
Yeah, I said it had its place, and it had its time. Whatever era it birthed, wherever era it came from, right? I think there was a scripture that says all things work together for the good of them that serve the Lord, or whatever, yada yada. So, like, when you look at religion, religion had its place. I just think amongst religion, something got lost. Something got lost in there, and the true identity of spirituality that was intertwined with religion kind of got misconstrued and discombobulated amongst the people, because the people were beginning to evolve. So now, in this era, in this time, we're dealing with spirituality, because that's what we're going through, awakening experience, as we shift through, the different ages, right? We're going through these different cosmic experiences, if you want to call it that. And spirituality is becoming more prevalent to us now.
Okay.
This is very hard for a lot of people, because a lot of people wasn't born on that foundation, So what happens is, whenever you don't have a foundation to stand on, and then when you receive knowledge coming your way, you don't know what to do with it. You don't know how to discern and decipher the knowledge, to tell which knowledge is true and which knowledge is not. So a lot of people are what the Bible calls eating from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. They're not eating from the tree of life. They're not open at the heart chakra in order for them to discern what to take in and what not to take in. So whenever you don't have a foundation to stand on, then this is what happens. People don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear about the religion. And I understand that, because these times now, religion is going away. And
it is.
And people, and the consciousness is rising. But where we were, religion was needed in order to control the younger souls. Okay?
I agree. Let me first start by saying I kind of peeked in the chat room a little bit, and I see somebody said the guy is an atheist. I am not an atheist, okay? Let me just clarify that.
Yo, they love to try to throw that on us, man.
I'm not an atheist.
Don't even worry about the chat room with Brendan and whoever. But we're just having a good dialogue, good conversation.
Well, we're talking about spirituality. It's not that we don't believe in God. It's just that we've escaped the ideology of a religious God. We're just kind of evolving. But cool. Let's go on to the next topic.
Let's move on.
Because we can go all day long on this. Racism. Let's talk about racism.
My man froze up a little bit.
Is he still there? Oh, yeah, he's back. He's back.
We still love you, Brendan.
Is he still, are you still there, JL? Okay.
Yeah, I'm here. Y'all can't see me?
We see you now. All right, so let me put my nature back there, since everybody's saying nature. Let me get back to nature. All right, cool. So let's talk about racism. What do you feel? Let's just say, what do you feel about racism, JL? Let's start there. Let's just start real basic.
I can say that I understand it. Um, white people are the minority. And so for them, it's all about protecting just their place on the world. So I can understand it from that place. And another thing is that their ability to see us as less than gives them the ability to treat us in ways that they wouldn't even treat their own animals. You know? So it's like I understand why, because if there was only a minority of black people, you know, if we only made up 6% of the planet and we already were in places of power, I would try to hold on to our power and I would try to hold on to our place in society as well. So I get that. But it's so misguided, you know, with the stereotypes. Sometimes we see things and we still can't believe that these people are capable of doing certain things, to the point where we really question, do they even have a soul? You know, we question, like, where did they even come from? Where did these people even come from? You know, that's how bad and how sick some of the things that they have done are. Not only to us, but to their own. I mean, these people locked up their own people in gas chambers, you know, by the hundreds, thousands. So we look at them and we say, damn, what is it about these people? You know, like I said, I get the racism part. I get the protectionism. But I don't think that we can really integrate with them. I don't think that we can really mix with them. I just don't think that it's going to work. I think it's a failed project. And that's my own personal experience about it. You know, my personal opinion is that it has been a failed project. It has made us weaker. It has made us dependent. And it really is time for us to think about kind of just separating and doing for our own. We can work with them.
No, go ahead.
I was just saying we can work with them.
Yeah, I find it interesting. So I take somewhat of a different approach on this. You know, I agree that, you know, in times past, our ancestors, you know, things our ancestors went through, and I'm all about honoring our ancestors with wisdom and love, right?
Right.
So, you know, and being wise, sometimes it's just about how we approach certain things versus how we react to certain things.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that racism does not exist. I think we can all see that racism does exist. I just think that how we've handled it on a scale of, you know, melanated people has been somewhat, you know, maybe not as wise as we should have been. You know, we do march, we do things like that. And every time, you know, from my knowledge, we look at the times past, we try to start our own businesses, you know, they burned it down,
right.
You know, things like that. The only thing, because I grew up around, you know, white people, you know, I didn't really have a racist family, you know, I didn't kind of have that kind of issue. And we were kind of live together. So my particular view is coming from that perspective. Now, I'm not saying that I didn't ever see racism, and I'm not saying that racism did not exist where I'm from. You know, it was times that, you know, maybe I've seen some things that was racist, but I think that I've always, and my family's always been able to handle it by going out and handling your business and then coming back and helping your people see how, when you handle your business, everyone, that kind of energy draws to you, and everyone can feed off of that type of energy, and we can all grow and evolve as the melanated people.
Okay.
Definitely.
Ken? I mean, so what are you saying? Are you saying that we can grow with white people, that we can build with white people? Or are you saying that we have to do for ourselves? Like, what, are you talking about integration, or are you talking about separating?
I'm talking about duality, so I'm talking about both. I think some people can, some people can't. I'm not saying that you know, it works for everybody. For some people it does, some people it doesn't, because of their particular ideologies and the way they view them. right? But for me, you know, I can grow with them. I don't have an issue with that. But for some people, they can't. And some people, they actually can. They just choose not to, right?
Yeah.
Some of the people they're around, they feel like, you know, well, even though they've never had any problem with any, you know, Caucasian people, but,
Yeah.
you know, because they're around a certain sector of people, they act differently, dress differently, right? They start kind of trying to bend to the way, like peer pressure, if you will. But that's the way I look at it.
I mean, I think we could, like I said, I think we can work with them. But it's deeper than just being called a nigga.
Right, definitely.
It's like, can I get in a position over you and you not feel some type of way because a black man is in charge? You know what I'm saying? So it's like white people can be very nice to you. They can be very kind. They can invite you over to eat, all that good stuff. But the moment you get out of place, the moment you're the boss, then you start seeing the microaggressions. You start seeing, you know, they change because they feel like they should be in a position of power. Like that is their, deep down inside, that's what they feel. I have friends all the time who say, you know, my parents aren't racist. I said, okay, bring me home then. Bring me home and tell your dad that you dated me. And let's see what he said. Let's see. You know, it's deeper than you know, people saying make America great again, and it's deeper than that. It's when I'm trying to really build something, I'm really trying to go somewhere. Are you gonna try to pull me back? Are you gonna try to hold me back because you feel that a black man shouldn't be ahead of you or over you? You know, and those are the type of things, those type of attitudes, the attitude of whiteness. Those are the things that have been holding us back. Hell, we've been open arms for a long time, brother. We've been like, hey, we accept you. Come on in. We gonna love you. Even the story with Dylan Roof, when he went and killed those people in South Carolina, the next day, you know what the family said? They came out and forgave him and invited him to church. The next day. So we have always been people with our arms open. We've always been a nice, kind people. And then they hug us back and stab us, sometimes in the back and sometimes in the chest. So can we work with them? Absolutely. I always, you know, I tell people I don't hate white people. And a lot of people have unfollowed me because I say I don't hate white people. I don't hate white people. It's either you got hate or love, and I got too much love for my own people to go after hating white people. But I don't trust them. You know what I'm saying? I got one eye open. I'm like, I don't hate you, but I'm gonna watch you. You know?
That's true. I agree with you, man. Like I said, I grew up like you say. You know, I actually grew up in a town where we had, you know, interrelationship dating. So it wasn't uncommon for me to see that. So my perspective is different. You know, I love all people. I'm pro-life, honestly. I care about my people and, you know, the circumstances that we're in, but we're slowly coming out of it. It's a process. We're only a couple hundred years removed, right? So, right. You know, it's a process, and it's coming. It's coming. Now, this question also about racism that I had jotted down really quick. The media. We look at the media and we see a lot of those things pumped in the media a lot, right? Mm-hmm. So you see, you know, you talked about the wolf guy going in church. You know, of course, a string of different things that have taken place that just kind of resurfaced itself a few years ago, and it's constantly being pumped. And this is not to say that Black people weren't being killed before all of this now. This is just ever since this particular pump in the media. Do you feel that to an extent that the people, all right, are trying to stir up somewhat of the consciousness of people to get them kind of riled up a little bit? I mean, we just had this Trump card thrown at us. I mean, we got a lot of things going on here. So do you feel that they're, in a sense, kind of playing this role behind the scenes here to spark these type of things amongst us, Black and white separation?
See, I'm the type of person, and you know, I always get in trouble for this. Yeah. I'm the type of person who doesn't believe that white people always have Black people on their mind. Like, every time something happens, Black people say it's the white people out to get us. And I really don't think that their mind is on black people that much. Not until Obama became the president. Now you always got to see a black face. Because most white people don't really interact with black people. Right? We live in certain areas, and everywhere else, white people know black people through TV. Now, the media, they're going to always chase a story because it's always about money. So they're chasing a story. And when you have white people looking at a black face in the White House, that's going to stoke up some fear, some animosity, some anger. It translates into other things. So we start seeing more police brutality. I mean, police brutality is good news. That's big money. So we're seeing those things. And then we always have seen how they show black men who, rob somebody. And this is how white people are introduced to us. This is how they get to know us, through the news and through the media. So racism, it's validated through the media. White people can say, this is how black people act because I see them like this every night on the news. Well, police officers see that too. So they get the same fears. And then black people see it too. They see the black on black, not black on black, but the police brutality. They see it. And they say, well, what's going to happen to me if a police officer pulls me over? So now when a police officer pulls a black man over, we got two things going on. We got one scared person dealing with another scared person. And only one of them got a gun and the right to kill you. And that just adds to the fire, man. So it's more than racism. It's just a lot of fear involved in it as well. And a lot of money involved in that.
I agree. And, that's why I alluded to the whole idea about the media. That's why I wanted to take this back and bring this back to the media because, I would travel. I'll be on the road and, I've gotten stopped by cops, white, black, it doesn't matter. But I think it was like sometime last year for the first time, I got pulled over by a cop. It was a white cop, and I actually had to gulp him in it. And that never happened. That never happened. I never had to But since the things in the media are being pushed more, it plays or it triggers that fear in the minds of people, especially, black people. And listen, I want everybody to understand that we're having this conversation because it needs to be had. And I think that, it's not one of those things where we're saying we hate white people. We're not racist people. We're just having a dialogue about the things that actually go on in the media and the things that a lot of people don't want to deal with. And that's why we're having this conversation. And I popped in the chat really quick, and I saw somebody mention blacks aren't unified, which I thought was very, very interesting. I think that it's not. This is unity.
Oh my gosh.
This is unity.
Yeah.
The fact that you're in the chat is unity. The fact that this brother is here is unity. It's just the things that are put in the media doesn't show unity. They're not going to show this in the media. Civilized conversation from religion to racism to this man's own book. He's a psychologist. I mean, this kind of stuff isn't going to be shown. That's why we wanted to do this webcast.
Yeah.
So it gives people an opportunity to look at us in a different light. We're not up here. I'm not saying you listen. I'm not knocking the conscious community. Shout out to those guys, and what they're doing, what they did for black people. But we don't want to constantly stir confusion. Understand that sometimes we have to look at each other and correct each other, sharpen each other. But it doesn't need to be perhaps public in a sense. I mean, go to your brother and let him know hey, boom, 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 don't do that. Dun, 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 and then come back and handle your business. But I didn't mean to get off in the conscious community, but that's why we're having these conversations.
But another thing is that people got to understand that everybody's not going to agree. Exactly. We can be three brothers who have a disagreement, but we still have a connection, and we still say, you know what? We still on the same team. We still on the same side. Doesn't mean that we have, and I always put that on my status. I'm like, listen, y'all, we are not going to agree about everything. We're just not. We all have different experiences, and we're not all meant to agree about everything. We needed Malcolm X, and we needed Martin Luther King Jr. We needed both of them, right? But they both had very different ideas about the direction of the black community. So, of course, there's unity because all on the same side.
I agree. I agree 100%.
I think the issue is there's not a lot of understanding of why we're here, and all these things are taking place, and people don't know which way to take because there's no understanding of why these things are taking place.
Right.
Why there's a race war, this physical race war. Why the media is showing these things. So people are thinking and are in chaos and asking all these questions. But when you ask a question, that means you're on the quest, because you're on the quest. You're on a journey, and you have to ask questions, So, I think people need to understand that we are here for soul growth. We're here for a learning experience. This is learning grounds, so we can be prepared to go to our next journey. The soul has to be strong enough to be ready for the next journey. So That's why you see all these things, in the physical, but really the black and white thing, that's really not the purpose of it. It's for the purpose of the soul.
Right.
Whether you're black or whether you're white, you're getting some type of experience or some learning experience from what you're seeing. You're growing some type of way from what you're seeing. So if people understand that they're here for soul growth, and you go through the stages and you go through the levels, and as you mature and go through the stages and the levels, you will begin to understand as you mature. You can't get your inheritance. A parent gets a kid an inheritance, right? But they don't give the kid that inheritance until they feel that they're mature enough to get it. So the soul has an inheritance of all knowing, but the soul will not understand everything until it continues to go up the stage and mature. And then it will receive its inheritance as it grows up and matures, But all the information is there for each soul, but you have to continue to grow and mature in order to continue to get that information. That's why it's so important to stay open and continue to move forward. Don't let nothing stray you to the left and to the right, But, I think everybody needs to get that understanding of why we are here. We have to grow. We have to learn. It's all for the soul experience. And I think once everybody gets that understanding, I think everything will change, and it's going that direction. Everybody is understanding more now. Like we said, the consciousness is rising, and it's going back to that spiritual side, but it actually is going back to a more balanced side, because we learned the spiritual side first. Then we had to lay the foundation on the more logical side. Now we're going back to that balance. Now that we understand both sides, now we have to find balance in between all the things that we've learned and experienced.
That's right, man. And it's a spiritual journey, and we're definitely evolving. And I agree 100%. That was well said. Looks like we just had somebody just jump in.
We got here, Lamonte. You got to cut your sound up, man. But yeah, that's what's taking place, y'all. I mean, everybody has to get on the same page as far as understanding why we're here. Everybody can understand that aspect. We're here for soul growth. No matter what level you're on, you can understand that. And once everybody understands that, then they'll know why they're going through these certain things.
Before that, I think people have to understand, like when they're coming out of religion and they're coming out of belief systems, they're trying to find out who they are and what their purpose is. That's like one of the first questions I get. Okay, so my life doesn't have any purpose? Because their whole life they've been told that their purpose is to get to the afterlife, the right afterlife, not the hell eternity, but the right afterlife. And so when that religion gets taken away, now it's, okay, what is my purpose? Why am I here? Do I even have a purpose for life? Am I just meant to work and die? So they have to find their own purpose first. And then I think you're right in exploring what all of our purpose is, and so they'll have a better understanding of it. They will be able to coexist in a better way.
Right. Right. But it's all about finding balance.
Yeah.
That's why you see all these things on the outside of you, because it's meant for you to find balance inside of you. You have to understand how to deal with certain situations. You have to understand that you have to overcome different obstacles in order for your soul to have some type of growth. So you have to go through certain things as a black person or Caucasian or white person. You know, you have to go through these certain things in order for the soul's concerned.
Brother King, turn your mic down a little bit. I think we're getting a little bit of feedback from you. So, for everyone that's just jumping in, thank you again for jumping into the webcast. We have our brother here, the psychologist and author J.L. Ford, live with us right now, and it's a beautiful thing to be able to have these conversations that would allow people to open up more about, you know, whether it be their religion, whether it be their spiritual experience, or whether it just be life. I actually heard you talk a lot about financial liberation. I didn't have that on the list actually, but you did a live video, JL, and I thought it was very good about financial liberation. Right. So while we have our people in the room, okay, and we're live, please just for a few seconds, can you talk to us a little bit about this financial liberation?
Absolutely. I think that we have conversations about finances in the Black community, especially in the conscious community, but we don't have a good definition of what wealth is. And wealth is very attainable for most people. Everybody's not going to be wealthy, but it's attainable. And wealth is being able to, like, if you quit your job right now, you could live your same standard of life for years, right? So wealth is being able to retire whenever you're done working, and you can continue to have your standard of living. And I wrote about this in the book, in the section where I talked about tithing. Only about 3 or 4% of people retire and are not depending on any money from the outside at all. Only about 3 to 4 people. And everybody thinks they're going to be that person, but they're not preparing for it. So one of the things that I had talked about in that video that you're referring to is, how can we get there? First of all, we have to stop spending all the money that we make. All right? That's number one. That's everybody living paycheck to paycheck. They working to spend the money. Right. So you're making $5,000 a month, you're spending $5,500 a month because you're not budgeting. All right, that's number one. And so I was talking about what are some of the things that we do to end up in this situation. I've been there. A lot of people, most people are there, even rich people. It doesn't matter if you're making $1 million a year, if you're spending $1 million a year. It all starts here. So one thing that I encourage people to do, and one thing that I try to do, is to live well beyond my means and use that extra money to invest. So a couple of things. First of all, we spend money on clothes. Like, Black people, we just spend money on things. See, white people get it. They don't spend money on junk like we do. We spend money on things, toys, right? And I ask myself this question before I buy something. If I buy this product, how much is it going to be worth next year this time? If I buy this pair of jeans for $100, how much is it going to be worth in 2018? Right? And most of the things that we buy, they're worth probably nothing the next year over. Cars. Cars are the hugest wealth killer. You buy a car, all of a sudden you got a $300-400 payment a month, and you got $200 that you're paying in insurance. So you're paying $500-600 a month just for a vehicle that you're barely in. And we always get cars that we can't afford, or we get the cars that they tell us we can't afford. So they tell you that you can afford $300 a month, and what you getting? $300 a month, right? Or $500, you get more, right? When you really should be getting one that's used and half that amount, okay?
Or a cash car.
Or a cash car, absolutely. My car's cash, bought it cash, right? Because when you paying payments, you also have to pay the full cost of the insurance. so on and so forth. When it comes to buying a house, we buy houses in places where they don't appreciate in value. When the bank says you can afford $250,000 for a house, how much do we spend on the house? All $250,000. So these are ways that we spend all the money that we make. So if we want to make it to wealth or being able to retire one day, what we have to do is spend significantly less money than we bring in. And that's what we have a bad habit of doing, is spending every single thing that we make. So I'm glad that you brought that up, brother, because a lot of people talk about finances and financial freedom, but what we see in the Black community is people selling soap, and we see people selling creams and things like that. We're not really selling many things. You can work a job. Everybody's not meant to own a business. You can work a job and still retire in a way where you're comfortable if you can roll back on how you spend your money and what you feel you need to spend it on.
That's key. And I'm gonna say this: before I got married, me and my wife, we went through a counseling session, right? And we wanted to do this counseling.
Right.
Like, we have to do this, we want to make sure that we, because sometimes you're not gonna really. And I'm gonna say this, right? We can add this along that whole lines of financial freedom, just to talk to our people about marriage as well, right? So a lot of people don't realize that before you get married, counseling is very key, because you're not going to ask all the questions you need before you complete that entire circuitry, because you're trying to counsel from within the home. That's difficult, right?
Yeah.
It takes two.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we did was we found out that it's important to have a financial philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever you're getting married, financial philosophy is key to growth financially, emotionally, physically, mentally. Like, not saying that money is everything, because I'm not one of those type of guys,
Right.
But I believe that having a philosophy, like you say, living below your means at times,
Yes.
Knowing how to balance out your finances, listen, I'm telling you right now, I'm 29 years old. I'm knocking on 30.
Right.
I'm not 30 yet, but I'm gonna tell you this. If I knew half the things I knew now at the age of 18, 19, 20, I would be a completely different person. But because things are in divine order, according to Ken, everything had to work out this way so that I can learn, right? So what I'm saying is the financial philosophy is key. It can work whether you're in a marriage or whether you are just living, your normal life or whatever you're doing. You don't have to have no car note just because some celebrity, you see some celebrity driving this car. Listen, you don't need it. You don't just get a car. Just get a car and just drive it sucker till the wheels fall off. I don't care who looking at me.
Most affluent people, meaning people who keep their money, their cars, they pay less than $20,000 for their cars. And we have this thing when we think about rich people, we think of nice, fancy cars. No, they're getting a car that's reliable, they're getting it used, and then they turn around and sell it in 2 years for the same price they bought it for because they keep it up. This is smart. But we want to get the car, it's like this. You got a master's degree or you got a bachelor's degree. Now you got to live according to the degree that you got. You know what I'm saying? Oh, you got a PhD. Now you got to have a PhD car and you got to have a PhD house. And so when we try to spend according to our social status, it's always going to keep us going from paycheck to paycheck. Don't matter. You can make $3 million a year, $4 million a year. Don't matter. It's so easy to fill all that up with stuff. I used to watch the Susie Orman show. I don't know if y'all ever watched Susie Orman. It's a good show, I think, for couples to watch. And the couples would call in and they would say, I want this. This is how much money I would have. And it always surprised me how a couple could bring in $10,000 a month and spend $9,000 a month. How do you do that? Because you're trying to live according to your status. Just because you got $100,000 a year job doesn't mean that you have to spend $100,000 a year. But that's what we get caught up in doing.
Yeah. So, Brother King.
Yes.
Thank you for joining us, man. I'm going to let Brother King have the floor. I don't know if you have any questions, Brother King, or if he wanted to chime in on a few things. Again, everybody, let me say thank y'all so much for jumping into the live podcast or Webcast, as we call it now. The name will change. Can shoot.
Let's continue forward with the book, man. So let's go into the late chapters. So
okay,
yeah. So what are you talking about in the late chapters, man? Kind of break some things down.
well, what I'm really talking about in the book is, because I kept getting this question, Dream, and that's my name, Dream. Why is Christianity so bad? What is it about Christianity that's holding me back? What I don't see those things, and of course, when you're in the belief, you don't see how it's hurting. Right? I wrote about these people who jump off of tall constructs that they make, 60 foot tall. They jump off of them every year. And the whole purpose is to get as close as they can to the ground. They actually hit the ground. The more they hit the ground, the more they feel like the gods are going to give them food the next year. Mm-hmm. This is going on right now in the Pentecostal Islands, right? Now, can you go to these, like, would you have your children do this practice? You would say, no, this is dangerous. This is crazy. But you can't tell them that, right? They don't understand how that's dangerous, you know? So when you're inside of a belief system, you don't really understand how it hurts you. So what I went through in the book is trying to really tell the reader, okay, this is how this religion has been costing.
What you say, babe?
Like we talked about finances. I said, listen, I started church when I was a little boy. And now, 30 years later, I'm seeing all of these people dying old. They all gave their tithes faithfully. They all died broke. All right? They all dying broke. Now, if those same people were to take those tithes, and let's say put it in Roth IRA and let it sit there for, let's say they paid into it for 10 years and let it sit there for 30 years, they sitting on 6 figures by the time they retire. You don't see how it's hurting you because you win it. And you always having these things reinforced. So like, let's say if you don't pay your tithes that month and you get a ticket, a speeding ticket. So what are you going to do? You're going to correlate the two. I got this speeding ticket because I didn't pay my tithes. It reinforces that. Let's say you pay your tithes and you get a check in the mail for $50. All of a sudden you correlate. So I got $50 because I paid my tithes. This is how the mind works. But it's actually working against you. If you put that same money into a savings account or into an investment, you wouldn't have to beg Jesus for money for your light bill because you'd already have it. So I go into talking about tithing. I go into more controversial subjects like child rearing. I do not believe in hitting children. And I kind of break down why, where it came from, and my opinion on why we shouldn't do it. And I back that up with studies and research. Other things that I talk about is how the idea of heaven is more dangerous than the idea of the concept of heaven. I mean, of hell. It's even more dangerous. Even back in slavery times, the way that they kept these people there, heaven was a way for them to be passive about slavery. They could say, you know what? I could take this hard life. I could take being beaten. I could take being raped and killed because one day I'm going to go to heaven and the slave master's going to go to hell. So I ain't got to do nothing. All I got to do is wait because judgment is going to have its day. So heaven was actually more dangerous for the black person than hell was. Hell just scared you, right? Hell scared me to getting saved a whole lot of times. But it's heaven that allows us to be passive about the oppressive ways of white people and of white supremacy.
Wow.
Good deal, man. Good deal. Monte, unmute your mic, man. I want you to touch on what he just said.
All right. I mean, for the most part, man, I understand them. You know, hold on, my daughter is asking me a question. What is it? Okay. I mean, I understand him. It was something he just said that kind of hold on. Could you relate that? It was one thing he just said that I wanted to talk on. What was the topic? Was it the tithing or was it the It was the tithing, and that kind of went on to, like he was saying about the how we are not pretty much taught about investment. So we kind of could use that same money that we put into investment. I mean, into tithing into investment. You know,
Mm-hmm.
the whole fact of that the church is a tax-free business, and they do use that to their advantage.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Kind of talk up a little bit, Lamonte.
that's why I turned my mic down some because you said it was distorting.
Yeah, talk up a little bit if you don't mind.
All right, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, he like I was saying about the tithing. You know how they rather pay the church, and you know it's a tax-free business instead of teaching us how to invest our money into our own stocks or our own private accounts or whatever. I believe we'll come out better if I had no problem with the church if they told more the truth, you know, but
Mm-hmm.
it's more for profit if you ask me.
Yeah, I understand, man. I understand. You can, to me, like I said, church is the foundation. You can get a lot from church. You can learn a lot. Like me, I put a lot of money out there in times. I'm talking about a lot. I'm talking about 6 figures at one time type stuff. You know, thinking that I was supposed to do that. You know, and I did a lot of that out of fear.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
but one thing I could look back and know that it taught me was to give and to be open to give.
Yeah.
That's the good thing that I learned from that.
Yes.
You know,
I understand that.
the fear behind it and the motives that some preachers or pastors may use to get the money is wrong. But what you can learn from giving, there's nothing wrong with that to me.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, but like I would think more back in the day in the 60s, if you look at any pictures of Martin Luther King, maybe Malcolm X in the church area, they used to pretty much get in the church, they used to discuss about the black community and it was more about defending the black community. They had their shotguns, or if it came to that, they have they people, and they would kind of say, well, we need to police our own communities. This is what they used the church for at the time. You know what I'm saying? And then when Lyndon B. Johnson came in with the grant that he gave the churches, which is the 501c3, he gave them this grant to say, well, look, y'all can't talk about nothing political in the church. Y'all can't talk about nothing that's gonna help these people. Y'all need to just, you know what I'm saying, keep it strictly in the book.
Mm-hmm.
By them talking like that, they receive this grant every month, and this is what keeps them going along with the tithe. And that's what I don't respect about the black church. You know, you can't go there and really get any truth these days. It's about, like I said, just about the money.
Right. They put a lot of obstacles in your way, but that's why I say we have to come to the mindset that we're here for soul growth, and this is learning grounds.
Yes.
So we have to understand that we have to overcome these obstacles. We have to take the good and spit out the rest of the stuff that we don't need. Like, eat the meat and spit the bones out.
You're right.
But the thing is, we can't afford it anymore.
Not anymore.
Right.
Not anymore. That was for back then.
You know,
Right.
we can't, because like you said, brother, the church used to have a function. It used to have a real function. Even during slavery, the church had a real function. After Nat Turner had the revolts, right? They put a stop to a lot of that. They did the same thing. They would make sure that there was a white man, a slave owner in that church building, so that they couldn't congregate that way, right? So they made the church ineffective, and the same thing is happening now. So the church is ineffective. We can't afford to just give billions to the church anymore. Right? We need to establish groups, programs, like the one I heard about in Texas. I think it's called the Huey P. Newton Gun Group, a gun club. That's the kind of things that we need to have going around. Yeah, that's the kind of programs we need. Now, if you bring those back to the church and the church starts putting it into the community again, like I took my cousin out. My nephew, he's 9 years old, right? We was on a drive. And I said, I want you to count how many churches you see in the poor neighborhood. We went around the neighborhood. We were just counting it together, having a good time. He counted 13 churches in the poor neighborhood. And the church I grew up in was there since I was born. So why is the neighborhood still in the same condition when you got 13 churches there. We went to the prosperous community. They don't have any church. They got one church that they go to down the street. But you go to the poor neighborhood, you see churches everywhere. So the church is ineffective in terms of, and you know another thing they do? They bring a pastor out to calm everybody down.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We can't afford that anymore. We can't.
Right, y'all. This is a new day. But like I was saying earlier, we were more in a logical mindset. I call it a left brain mindset years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Now the consciousness is rising. Now we're moving back to a balanced state. So everything that we've learned from all these years, whether it be when the melanated people was in power, to whenever we get pushed into slavery to learn things in a different way, now we must bring all these things together in what we learn and move forward from there. But it was a reason for all these things. None of these things were a mistake. All these things were for soul growth, okay? Melanated people are spiritual people, okay? Whenever this is universal law, y'all. It has to go back. It has to tilt back to that other way. It has to. That's what goes on. And then later on, some years later, then it'll go back the other direction.
They know that, and we don't know that. That's the problem. They know that we're spiritual people. We don't know that we're spiritual people. That's why you get in the church. I mean, I haven't been to church in probably 2 years or so. But if I go there, I grew up in the church, so it feels like home if I go. You know, you get to hearing the music and you hear them sing. And
yeah.
They get you. Hey,
because everything about the church is emotions. It's all emotions.
Yeah, it's emotions. It's spiritual. So if I go there, I feel like, okay, well, this is right. But then I know it's not. You know what I'm saying? I'm knowing hard that it's not. So I kind of just, I don't blame the people that go because like I said, I was once there and I was once in that frame of mind.
Yeah.
Like, you know, but I lied to, and it's never been the same since for me.
Yeah.
I tried to go to church, man, after I woke up.
What happened? Because
it's hard, bro.
Hey, JL, you knew too much.
Bro, I'm just sitting there like,
much.
I'm sitting there. and that's why I encourage people to continue to go to church after you get the truth. And because there's a time when you try to resist it, but once the chicken come out the egg, it can't go back in.
Right.
So when you go back to church with this new information, it further validates this sneaking suspicion that something is wrong.
Right.
So I say go back to the church. Because when you go and sit in that church and the pastor start talking, you're going to say, hold on, wait a minute, something ain't right here.
But you
I
know
don't
what?
like the way it's making me.
But check this out.
Something ain't right.
Right. Even in if you read in Revelations, it tells you once you become enlightened, you can no longer go out.
Yeah.
You can no longer go outwardly. You're gonna be looking inwardly. You know too much now. You know. So every time you hear something, you can be like, that ain't right. That's just not right. You know.
It don't make sense.
Right. Exactly.
Make sense. See, we were taught not to question. Do not question, and it made sense at first not to question until, like you say, once you question, like JL said earlier, it kind of have you mad at certain people or mad at. I was mad at my Sunday school teacher. You know what I'm saying? It went as far back as that to where I was mad at them. Like, man, how could they?
Well, they didn't know.
You know, they didn't know.
They didn't know.
That's what I had to come to. That's what I had to come to. You know.
What I find out, is that everything is about, remember where you are, who you are within, and as you begin to evolve and you're growing and different things like that. You can't be mad at them. I found myself doing that too because I realized that they're only regurgitating what they were taught and then what their parents were taught and what their parents were taught. But I tell you what, though, talk about this music because I ain't nothing bumping like that 2008 Ty Tribbett and GA album because I put that on this morning. I was like, dang, man, this album right here is bumping, So, but no, so. What I wanted to say a few minutes ago, whenever you guys were talking about the emotionalism, what I found is that the church deals with people strictly based on their emotions. music. I went to school.
That's why he get everybody riled up and throw the offering around.
Right. You know, I went to school because we don't understand. Yeah. First of all, we don't understand how frequencies work, vibrations, all these different kind of stuff. This scientific terminologies, how music in a sense. I took music theory and I went to school for audio video, and it talked about how music is an organized sound that stirs emotion. Yeah. So anytime you listen to music, it's going to stir your emotions to a point to where you're going to begin to feel a certain type of way about things. And they mistake this for a move of the Holy Ghost.
Yeah, you're right.
That's what they're mistaking that for versus, you know, having a spiritual experience is different from it. It's different. A truthful experience versus a emotional experience. We can mistake those two, which can cause us to kind of fall in love with that emotional, like that feeling, right? It's just that feeling that you get. And I found myself doing the same thing because I go to church too, and I'm just like looking, and I look around, and it was recently I went because I had to go support one of my homeboys because, you know, shout out to him. You know, I'm not mad at anybody who's still active and doing these things, but I still support him, you know. But I'm just looking around, and, you know, it's just so different now, you know, how I see it, how I view it, you know. It's just totally different.
Somebody just said on Facebook, do you guys think that certain types of music can unlock certain parts of DNA? Music is vibration.
Yeah.
You know, if you play certain music, it's going to send out a certain vibration to the body. You know, our body is made of water, mostly. So whenever the body hears a certain type of music, it's going to send those vibrations throughout the body. That's why whenever you go to church, you feel a certain type of way.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I did like a little project myself here. It's on my YouTube at Ascend Beyond. And I took a cup of water and I put it on my speaker, and I played like Timmy Turner by what's that guy's name? Brain fart. But I played Timmy.
What's that guy? What's his name?
Designer.
Rapper?
Who is it?
Designer.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so I put this cup, right, and I put the cup on top of my speaker, and I played this song. I wish I could show it to y'all behind me, but it's like the water just went like, it had no flow, right? It had no flow. And most of the time when you put either sand or water or something like that, you get into all these geometric shapes, and you'll see where the water has a flow, has a currency, and it's flowing together and it's working together. That's how your soul or your spirit is working with the things that you intake into your brain. And when things are out of whack, you're going to know. So I put that song on, and then I turn around and I put on some Mozart, right? And I had my wife look at it, and man, that was the most prettiest water I ever seen in my life. I was like, that is beautiful. You can check it out on my YouTube at Ascend Beyond, and it's the most beautiful thing that I was like, wow, this is crazy.
Yeah.
But we talking about frequencies. I mean, audio has audio. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Now, I was just speaking. I was saying like words itself are vibrations. You know.
Oh yeah, definitely, man. Definitely.
Absolutely.
You know, right. By us being spiritual people, you know, we can go right now to Africa and we will be around some people that we don't know their language. But if they start beating on the drums, you know what I'm saying, we will relate to, like, we all got the same. Okay, my cousin Pat, man, y'all church, evangelical church in Folsom, man, it's different from any other church you ever go to. They have the tangerines and where they stomp on the floor. It's a different type. But it's like it'll get you going. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I don't know no other church like that. They got it's purposely done like that, and man, it's, you know, and then I grew up around it. You know what I'm saying? You know, they
somebody said something good on Facebook. Somebody said this is why music is used in church before the offering.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's getting you in the mood.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Softening you up.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And then the deacon gonna come out and tell you one of the stories from the Bible.
Yeah.
He's either gonna tell you how he gave and all of a sudden some money came out of nowhere. He's gonna tell you about the woman who gave her last money away, right? To guilt trip you. He's gonna tell you, will a man rob God to guilt trip you? It's all about feelings. Will a man rob God? That's the main one they use. Will a man rob God? And you sitting there feeling like, damn, I'm robbing God? let me get this money up.
Absolutely, man. Somebody else just said something good too.
The motives can get all messed up, man. I mean, they take it all wrong, especially, you know, these churches, they be needing money a lot of times. So that's when they do that. They be focused on money because they're like, man, we need to pay these bills. So now their main focus becomes money. That's just like a man with a business. I had a fitness center because I know every time them bills came up and I ain't have enough money, that's my mind was, man, how am I gonna pay these bills? You know what I'm saying? So it's the same way when they're in church, man. The pastors, man, they get to a point like, man, how am I gonna pay these bills? So they be pushing that money.
End of the month come, they telling all kind of stories. They gonna go back. They gonna go back into the bag, you know.
Yeah.
So I was 21 years old.
So Ken, if you don't mind, you want to jump to the chat and take questions.
Go ahead, man.
From the people. If you guys have any questions over in the chat, go ahead and ask them. I mean, we're totally open. Listen, we're brothers just trying to make a difference. And we don't, trust me, we're open. Just ask. It doesn't matter what you ask. From racism to religion to finances to whatever. I don't think the only thing we haven't dealt with tonight is actually homosexuality, but.
And make sure y'all get the book.
Right.
Yes.
So, give me the web address, man, if I can put it on here.
It's okay to let go.com. And and listen, I need the family to get this book. Because it ain't cheap to produce a book. I need this book, man. Yeah. So you know, I definitely wrote it with the conscious community and with everybody in mind, because I feel like this is the most important book that I've ever read. And so please do support, get the book, will not be disappointed. And yes, and my editor tried to take out my signature phrase, but I was like, nah, that got to stay.
We're going to hold that to the end when we hang up. I want to wait that one for the end.
So Jerry, tell me, how does the book conclude?
The book concludes on this, right? Like we talked about a little bit earlier, when people come out of religion, they always have that hole. They want to know what next. And so my advice in the end was, listen, it's not for me to tell you what's next. Your pastor been telling you what's next. Your parents been telling you what's next. Now it's time for you to get that truth out. I remember Ray Hagan said something. I think this was Ray Hagan's. It might have been him. He said something. He said, I'm here to turn the light on for you. And the book is about turning the light on. The last chapter is like, hey, the light is on. You can see what's going on now. Now it's time for you to start your journey. You know, it's the same thing like about going to school. School doesn't really start until you get the degree. Once you get the degree, that's the license to learn. So coming into consciousness, that's the license to learn. Now it's time for you to go out there and get it. And I did share in the book, I said, listen, my personal belief is I believe in myself. If I'm going to be crazy about a belief, if I'm going to be crazy about a belief to the point where I give my money to it, I give my time to it, I give my energy to it, if I'm going to be delusional about something, it's going to be my damn self. That's me. You choose to believe in what you want to believe in. The important thing is that you chose it. So now you know that your direction is your own. It's not your father's, it's not your grandfather's. Your direction belongs to you. So that's how I concluded the book. Just trying to put the power in the reader's hand.
That's good, man. You get to a point on your journey to where you have to focus on yourself because you have to know who you are. Mm-hmm. So you begin to learn more and more about yourself and how the body works. You know, you'll begin to learn the history of yourself. You know, a lot of history goes back to the ancient Kemet times and, you know, the tribes in Africa and all these things. But all these things are relatable to what's taking place inside of you. So you begin to learn who you are.
Right.
Right. So that's beautiful, man. That's a beautiful conclusion.
Mm-hmm.
But somebody's asking,
yeah, that was going to be my next thing.
They say third eye, or is the third eye the first eye? It goes something like that. I guess she was asking a question.
But I'll handle that one.
Okay, so the inner eye is your real eye, because these two eyes are duality. You know, you got two eyes, you got two ears, got two holes in your nose, you know. So it's representing a dualistic state. And whenever, you know, the energy comes up, the two dual forces, good and evil, comes together at a certain point within you. And that's what the third eye means. It becomes one. You become balanced. So that's why the Bible says your eyes should be single. When the eye is single, that eye is full of light. You know?
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then another thing too, a lot of people talk about, you know, the Bible and Jesus. They don't realize he was talking about that.
But that's esoteric knowledge.
And
that's esoteric knowledge. The person, the Jesus character might not be true. All it's talking about is a higher consciousness, Christ consciousness. That's what Jesus is referring to, the Christ consciousness.
Yeah.
Okay, so we hear higher consciousness all day long. Whenever we were in church, we were listening to the pastor saying some higher thoughts, giving you higher thoughts. You know, as you go up the stages, you receive higher thoughts from different people, or even within yourself. You might be meditating one day and you receive some higher thoughts within yourself. You know, what was that?
Right, I'm not sure.
All Christ means is the anointed one. Right. And so, you know, we can all achieve that if we allow ourselves to be open, like the brother saying.
I could pretty much imagine it being just like you yourself, Mr. JL Ford, you had a...
Speak up a little bit, Lamonte.
Huh?
Speak up a little bit if you don't mind.
Okay, just imagine back in them times, if you consider yourself a master healer or a spiritual healer, you may have ways of treating people through nutrition, through the way they eat, or through the way they think, or, you know, just a couple of different ways. Back then, what do you think they would call you? Or how would you think these people came about for us to be considered that?
I couldn't hear.
What make you think that they would consider I wouldn't say Jesus as a man, but him as, you know, what makes you think they would consider somebody as a god back then?
Well, they had their own gods. They seen the Jesus character as Heru, or the Greeks changed the Horus. I think both of them are Greek names, but they were spiritual healers for certain reasons. It was a spiritual aspect of yourself.
Yeah. And then another thing is that people have always created heroes. And cultures have always placed in their best ideas, and they always put it into something. You know, they always put it into some type of figure, because it's easier for that figure to change the dynamic of the culture than it is for people to rise up and do it themselves. So they put it into something, and then it changes the culture. All of these religions are just a reflection of that culture. That's why when we go to different places like India and China, their gods look like them and act like them. Right? So it's just a projection of them for the next generations to come. But a lot of these gods, they're the Supermans of the day. You know, we always create superheroes. Always. Something to look forward to, something to have hope in. And for them, for a lot of them, it's just a superhero. What was that?
So this is what I feel.
I guess just the human nature needs something to believe in, and they pretty much play on that part. They play on the fact that we need something.
And what happens is people create religions, and they use that against people. So instead of you using that need to believe and placing it in yourself, you place it in something that has been created outside of yourself.
Yeah. I heard one of y'all saying earlier about, I was actually watching, I couldn't tune in because I was driving at the time. It was dark. I had to hurry up and rush home and get in the lit area, a few other things. But I heard you saying about, you know, how people, it's crazy, but, you know, people need something to believe when they know that, so they play into that fact. You know what I'm saying? And by them playing into that fact, create the religions, and it like I put earlier on the comment, it's basically made to divide and conquer. You know, a lot of people
once I kind of got rid of Christianity, I kind of was looking at Muslims. You know what I'm saying? Like, not to become a Muslim, but I kind of respected where they came from a little more because they would teach you about, if you listen from Malcolm X to Muhammad Ali to Louis Farrakhan, spoke more of the truth. And they would at least tell you not to eat pork. And they would at least, have some decency about themselves. Like Christians, there was no morals for Christians to me. It's just anything goes as long as they forgive me.
All right, Lamont, we get a lot of background noise. But yeah, you're right, man. Like Jail, he touched on that earlier. Some of the other religions, they're more strict than Christians. The Christian religion is not as strict as the other religions. You know, they teach you, they kind of teach you kind of strictly.
Yeah, we have a lot of
we got a lot of background
issues going on. So I'm gonna ask that if you're not speaking, to mute your mics, so we can kind of cut back on some of the audio. And so go ahead, Ken.
No, I was just saying some of the other religions are way more strict than Christianity. You know, but they teach you a little different because the culture is different. You know, different religions for different cultures and how they can perceive it in their culture. You know, so that's why it's taught that way.
Yeah, Christianity is an easy religion, man.
Yeah,
I was saying, like, I don't get the benefit. If I mess up, I gotta own it. I don't get to say, well, I'm just gonna pray about it, and I'm not gonna do it again. I don't get to do that. I have to own everything that I do, right or wrong. I have to own it. But in Christianity, you can just say, I'm not gonna do it again, and I pray to Jesus and God forgave me. It's an easy religion.
Right. Definitely, man.
It is.
So we had someone ask a question, and I kind of want to tap into that a little bit. I think they asked something about how can we get, so their family is religious, right? I think we all probably have that. Some family that's still very deep into the religion. How can we deal with our family that's still in religion? Anybody want to deal with that?
How can we deal with the family?
How can we deal with family that's still in religion?
Go ahead, JL.
I tell people this all the time. It's not your job to wake people up. Give the truth, put it out there, but you're not gonna wake people up. They're gonna wake up on their own. People wake up, like you could argue with somebody to death. They're gonna wake up on their own in their own time if they ever do. When I go home, I don't talk about religion. My father is a pastor. He ain't waking up. He got too much time in. And my mom is married to my father, so she definitely ain't waking up. They have too much invested in being right. You know? So I don't even talk about religion with them because it's going to cause discord in a place where it doesn't need to be. So, but people they feel like they have to wake up their family. No, you don't. Say how you feel. Tell them where you at. Let it be. That's my personal opinion. When I go home, I don't talk about religion to them because I don't want to create that type of drama in the house. I just say how I feel, let it go. But it's like when people feel, like when we get to the position where we feel like we have to force our views on other people, we become just as bad as Christians.
Another religion.
Right, we become another religion, right? All you can do is share your knowledge and then just be done with it. I don't argue with people about religion. I don't fight. I don't do that. People want to debate me all the time. I'm not going to debate you about your religion. I'm going to put what I know out there, and it's either you're going to take it or you're going to leave it, and then we're going to be cool after that. I said, I could be cool with we can build with Christians. I believe we can. Maybe not Hebrew Israelites, but we can build with Christians. You know what I'm saying? It's just that we can't try to force ourselves onto them. That's what we mess up. That's what we go wrong.
I'll piggyback off of what you said, my brother. What I've found is that, for myself, my mother, and, I love my mother and I respect her just like everyone else does. And, it comes to a point where you realize that there are levels to truth. There are levels to consciousness. There are levels to where we are in life. Everybody has a paradigm. Everybody has an ideology. The moment that you try to tell, it's just like, right, waking up is just like becoming a brand new Christian, right? You know, when you become a Christian and you first get saved and you got to save everybody, right? You just got to attack everybody like boom, boom, boom. That's how it is in the conscious community. The moment that somebody becomes conscious, they want to try to convert everybody to consciousness. Like, I don't want to be a part of that church. It's another religion. That's not what we're trying to do. So what you have to do, the thing is, like Brother JL said earlier, whenever you begin to wake up, you realize that you put the responsibility back on yourself to realize who and what you are as a divine being. Take responsibility. So work on yourself. If someone asks you a question, answer the question and move on. If you try to get into all of this knowledge, we're like, well, you know, when you look at Genesis, Elohim was actually plural for gods, and you start getting into all of this kind of this doctrine, then that's when it becomes more of a dogma fight. So that's my suggestion to you. Just kind of let your consciousness grow and expand. You know, don't force them to your particular views.
Exactly.
I like that.
That's true, man. Like, we have to realize this. Everybody is on different stages in life. Every soul is on different stages in life. You know, you can compare it to an adult and a child. You know, you're not going to tell your child adult things. So, because you understand that they're not going to receive it. They're just going to want to play with some toys. You know, they don't want to hear that. It's the same way.
Yo, it's popping in there right now. I don't know what we said.
It's the same way. It's the same way with the soul, with your true self. The soul is your true self. Okay, this human body is just the highest technology on this planet. Okay, it can work without the control of the soul. Okay, the human body can work off the signals from the outside, the sun, the moon, other people, the TV, the radio. Can tell the mind what to do, and it might do it if the soul is not in control. You know, so what's taking place is there's souls on that level, on that stage in their life. You know, so it's up to us to understand that that's where they are. You can't talk to them about certain things because they're not going to receive those things from you. Okay.
Hey, I remember when I was still sleepy. Like, I wasn't asleep, but I was sleepy. And this one brother kept saying, hey, man, you will get the truth at some point. And I kind of was offended about that. Because I'm like, so tell me what the truth is. And now I find myself in the same position where people say, well, what is the truth? And I'm saying the same thing. I'm like, listen, you're going to have to find out on your own. Because it's not something that somebody can just give you. It's something that you got to buy. And you got to buy it by giving some things up. So you're right. It's like you can't be a senior and teach a kindergarten or something.
That's right. Hey, that's perfect, man. That's perfect. Yeah.
That is crazy.
But they take offense to that when you say that.
Right.
Listen, real quick. I promise you. I'm not trying. I don't like to put my personal business out on social media, but me and my wife was having that discussion this morning about that very same thing, about how when you look at people who are kind of like, still dealing with religion, still deep into it, it's just like going from 2nd to 5th grade, right? Not saying that when you look back that the things you learned back then wasn't necessary because it got you to where you are, but you can't be in 2nd grade trying to tell me about 2nd grade trigonometry. Like, it's totally two different places. It doesn't make any sense. I'm sorry, you know.
Do y'all feel it's more common sense, or do you have to do more studying from where y'all came from? Do you have to do more studying? Is a certain book people want to read for? Is advice for anybody else, or is it more common sense?
Well, life is growing you. You're learning from your life, your experiences. It's bringing you through the stages, but you have to allow your experiences to bring you through the stages. You know, every soul is growing at a different rate. And as I always say, study the sperm. Whenever that sperm goes into that mother, all those sperms is not going the same way. Some of them sperms lose their way. Some of them sperms die off in the toxins. Some of the sperms get killed off by other cells, but there's only a few of those sperms that get to that egg. Every soul is on their own journey, just like those sperm that went into their mother. So we have to understand this. And this is the step that we have to take moving forward in order to know what's taking place.
Absolutely. And another thing is that, like, once you drop, like when your brain, when you crack through cognitive dissonance and narrative bias, when you break through the devices that keep you shackled to your belief, your brain, your mind, your spirit just becomes open to all this information. Because like I said earlier, when you believe one thing, your mind creates blind spots in other areas. I said this at the beginning of the cast. If you believe the earth is 6,000 years old, you have to turn a blind spot to a lot of science and technology and this that have happened. So that's why we have Christians who say that all of this science is wrong. They can't accept it, because if they accept it, they got to drop their religion. And they're not about to drop their beliefs, right? So once you drop all of this stuff, your mind becomes open in a way where it's like so much information is coming in, and you don't even got to look in the books for it. It's just that your blind spots are gone. It's almost like, right, it's almost like, you know, those cars, there are newer cars now, they have mirrors so that you can see the blind spot. It's like you get a new mirror, and all of a sudden you can see the areas where you couldn't see before. So you're able to see more, you know? Then your priorities are going to direct you to what you want to open your mind to. Some people open their mind to history. Like the brother here talking about history. Some people open their mind to more like spirituality, like metaphysical things. It's just like, what is your priority? What do you want to open your mind to now that it's not? What do you want to expose yourself to now that your mind is open?
It's all about the experience of the individual and where they are within their own paradigms.
Yep.
Yeah.
So the big thing, before we go, the big thing that kind of messes everybody up is the reincarnation thing. That's the big thing right there.
Now, why you want to go there, man? Now, see, I was trying to get out of here without going to reincarnation.
We can save it for another time, man. I just want to say it.
We definitely have to, man. We have to get into that. But I definitely think that reincarnation is something we should definitely talk more about. We don't talk a lot about it. Some people say because we can't prove it. Some people say because they don't want to come back here. They just refuse to believe that. And if you like myself, I believe that it's real. I believe that we do come back to this lifetime.
Can I say this? I don't know if that's a real thing, but I will say this. There is a such thing as one thing turns into 10,000 things, 10,000 things turns into one thing. When we die, we become a whole lot of things. We become food. We become fertilizer. We become a lot of things. And right now, in our form, we are made of a lot of things. Every single thing that we eat, everything that we consume, the people who we're around, our environments, it makes us who we are. So we become 10,000 things, and we are 10,000 things in one. You know, so are we coming back as a conscious being? I don't know. But we're always going to be, we're all one. We're all a part of the same, right? We just have an ego now, so we can say I. But when we pass on, we're going to become a whole bunch of things, you know?
Right.
I agree with that.
That's good, man. That's good. This is the way I see it. Our Father, we come from our Father. That's the first dimension. We come from our mother and go into that egg. That's the second dimension. We come out of the mother into this body. That's the third dimension. See, if you came from your father and your mother, you came from two bodies. Please believe that you are in another body. It's a more conscious, more macro body. You can't see the whole body. but you're in a body. You're between the sun and the moon. Solomon's temple, right? The soul and the moon. Soul, moon. Solomon, soul, moon. We're here between the sun and the moon. The solar plexus and the sacral chakra.
Hey, I'm gonna throw this wrench in there though. I gotta say this. Personally, I believe that the woman is first. I don't put the man first. What comes first? The sperm or the egg? Which one comes first?
What comes first?
Yeah, which one is created first?
Well, it all depends on what you're going by. Because, I mean, if you look at the Kemetic teachings, it tells you the sperm came first. The soul is a sperm. The soul is within the sperm.
Now, that's a teaching. But we know that women are born with their eggs. Men create sperm on a 76-day cycle.
Well, you can see the woman as the cosmos of where the sperm came from or started from. The nothingness. The darkness.
Right.
So that's the woman.
That's a whole
other discussion. And we're not trying to go there right now. I have a family. It's about to be 9:30, and that's definitely something we can get into next time. Maybe we have to bring you back on, JL.
I'm always here, brother.
We can actually get into that discussion about the woman being God. Let me correct that. The black
goddess.
Being God.
God or goddess? Which one?
That's interesting. Well, that could be a part of that discussion. I think maybe in 2 or 3 weeks from now, we come together, we have this discussion. We can call it a dialogue, we can call it a debate, or whatever we want to call it. But it's definitely something that I think the people would love to get into and talk about.
How y'all eat too? How y'all what's our diets? How they go along with your consciousness too?
The diet plays a role because the diet is teaching you how to control your physical body. It's teaching you how to control the senses. Yeah. So whenever you're eating a certain way, you're learning how to control yourself. That's the main thing about eating properly, because you have to learn how to control yourself. And at the same time, it's cleansing your inner body out so that you can see, think clearly or see and view things clearly.
Yeah, food definitely.
Yeah.
Food definitely plays a major role in the cleansing process.
Taquisha said, "Don't go."
If you're talking about food, I would challenge everybody to do this: to cut sugar out your diet for at least a week. Sugar is 10 times more addictive than cocaine.
Definitely.
But we don't ever feel that because we're constantly eating.
They put sugar in all that food, man.
Everything.
All that fast food.
Everywhere.
Everything.
It's
so
everywhere.
The brother is absolutely right.
About that, it's important. You need to read about the diets and what it is that y'all eat. Because I see Pat went vegan. I don't know if we consider it vegan, but I know you chill out on a lot of the meat. I don't know if dairy products too or whatever, but it plays a major role for us fasting or detoxing or whatever it is you do. They need a dialogue about that from black men.
Right, yeah, definitely, man. We can talk about that. We're going to talk about that. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, we're going to get into all of that. It's going to be interesting for the next, I would say at least for the next, 4 or 5 months in the webcast, man. I think it's going to be definitely interesting. And, we're going to try to, really help people. And, Ken?
Yeah, I appreciate everybody coming in. I think I'm going to pull somebody from the audience more. Because Lamonte, he asked me on the comment section on the live screen on live thing on Facebook. He asked me, can he come into the thing? And I said, yeah. So he just sent me his email and he popped in. So that'll be good to ask somebody from the audience, every time. That'll be good, man.
That's what's up.
But look, I appreciate you, JL, for coming in and sharing your extensive wisdom and knowledge. I appreciate
y'all.
I appreciate you, Lamonte, for stepping in, man. Tell the fam man. I said what's up. I appreciate you, Symbion, as always. And
wait.
Oh.
Wait,
so
hold on.
Hold on, before we go, y'all remember, it's www.itsokaytoletgo.com. Go purchase,
and I gotta say this.
Purchase the family book.
And I gotta say this, family, I love you all. I appreciate y'all joining. I hate to be the one to tell you. I really do. I hate to be the one to tell you. But Jesus is not coming back for your black hand.
Much love, y'all. And as I always say, be enlightened. Y'all have a good night.
What's up?